Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the 11th episode of the Flying Otters! With us today are the same two people as always, comedian Jimmy McCartney and the CTTO of the Flying Otters, Kirsten Pastelli! And our douchebag dog, Matt.
Who apparently gets a much weaker intro. The energy for like me and you was like an 8, and you said, and our douchebag dog, Mac.
It made him walk out of the room.
he left on
Poor
that
guy.
note. He left on no. Don't feel bad for Mac. Never, ever, ever. Life lesson, folks. There are many different views in this world.
I didn't even get shark bubbles while I did it.
You want to do it again?
No.
You want me to do it?
Yep.
There are many lessons that can be learned in this world, and there are many different views, and I understand how people can come to conclusions on those views, but one thing that is irrefutable, never, ever, ever feel bad for this guy. It is a mistake to feel bad for him. That much I can guarantee. Never feel bad for Mac. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the 11th edition of the Flying Otters podcast. We thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we have a pretty good lineup of subjects to talk about today. Do we or do we not? Kirsten Pacelli.
You made the entire list, so I am hoping that it is good.
So if it sucks, it's my fault?
Pretty much, yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, with that being said, the first thing we're going to talk about very quickly, ladies and gentlemen, is that we lay down. Lay down. Lay down. Mac. There you go. We are going on tour, ladies and gentlemen, after about 1 minute of awkward silence. That's what it felt like because of Mac's bullshit. We are about to go on tour from November 5th. And that fake auditory applause that came from a button is probably
No, this is recording in front of a live studio audience.
There's lots of people on our porch that you can't see all clapping for us, mostly just out of pity because they're like, oh, he finally got bookings. That's good. That's good to know. So basically from November 5th through the 15th, folks, we're going to be going on tour. I'm going to be doing shows from Florida to Georgia and both Carolinas over the span of 10 days. We got 10 shows. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of driving, a lot of shows. We're going to be exhausted, but hopefully get a lot of experience in before James McCartney V is born.
So if you live in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, or North Carolina, and you would like to see a Jimmy McCartney comedy show, hit us up, and we'll tell you where we're going to be.
Yeah. So that just really narrowed things down from a nation of 350 million down to those states, down to the people that would want to see my show, down even further to the 125 subscribers seeing this video within that market, in that demographic. If
you think more people want to see your show or are subscribed?
I will plead the fifth. I will plead the fifth on that one, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going on tour, and Kirsten will tell you that it took... Oh, my God. This is why you don't feel bad for this guy. Never feel bad for him. Don't do it. It's always a mistake. No, Mac, lay down. No, thank you. I'm not interested. My God.
You wouldn't think we were just at the park for like an hour with him.
Yeah. Yeah. No, he is a permanent psycho and unapologetic and unappreciative of anything. But what I was saying is, folks, we're going on tour, and I'm glad that it worked out the way that it did, considering the mess that it became. Basically, I structured a tour to where there was supposed to be several military bases and federal government contracts. And with the government shutdown, almost all of that fell apart in a very, very short span of time. And I basically scrambled like crazy, desperately calling any and all venues possible, up to and including, and I'm not kidding on this, several attempted movie theaters to do a stand-up comedy show live. And eventually, somehow, some way, got all of those dates filled. But
11 shows in 11 days, baby.
yeah, it was one heck of an effort in order to do it. It was very difficult, but it got done. And I don't know. I think we should talk just very briefly about how, like, we always see it in the news a lot about the federal government shutdown, but like, and it's not about like, oh, pity me, but this is a good example of how the ripple effects through the economy happen. You know, like if you have someone who is a federal government contractor and the government shut down, like me, boom, those bookings go away, the money goes away, and how are we going to survive? That's a really big question. The military service members, God bless our troops who sacrifice so much, are worried about getting paychecks and eating. And then think about all of the towns that like most of the economy is built on. Fort Drum in Watertown, New York, Fayetteville for Fort Bragg. Places where pretty much the whole economy is built around the soldiers going out and going to the restaurants, the grocery stores, the movie theaters, all of that. When they lose all of their paycheck, what happens to those, not only businesses, but the employees that service those businesses? It's just wild.
Yeah, way more people are impacted than you even think about.
Yep.
Not just the direct government employees who are furloughed or
Yeah.
not getting paychecks at all.
Yep. Tell them what you thought. I mean, you saw it firsthand what I was doing when, I was making all those calls and what we went through of just like constantly finding out.
I mean, it's pretty crazy because it takes months for you to be able to book a show and all the contracting that's involved and negotiations and all the people that you have to talk to just settle in the plans. And then when you have a whole tour booked around these things and then a week before the show, they call you and say, we can't do it anymore because we lost the funding. I mean, that screws up everything because then when you don't have a place to go on that stop and that was your stop in between two other things, it's like, now what do we do?
Exactly. So like if you were to think about it, ladies and gentlemen, of like a map, what you want to do so you're not doubling back and forth, you want to try to, as best you can, make a circle when you go on tour or go in a straight line. So if you lose bookings in the middle of that, then the whole thing can fall apart. And
it's not easy to just reschedule one show because you have to go all the way back up there just for one show. So you have to plan a whole nother tour around one show now.
Yep.
The couple that got canceled, the 6 or 7 that got canceled.
And hope that they can align those dates with my schedule. So it's
and it wasn't just military bases; it was colleges and else.
College programs that ROTC. So like college students that are training to be officers in the military. Those were aligned, and until a couple days ago, they didn't even know if they were going to be able to do it, and they were scrambling, trying to figure out a way to get the money. And basically, they figured out a way to get both donations and internal funding to make it happen, but they didn't even know. And if those things fall apart, then the whole thing can, because it's like if you're all the way out in Madagascar and then you lose a booking, what are you going to do in order to get there? You're going to have to go into the red by spending money. And my problems are minuscule compared to, like, imagine being in a military, right? And you have 4 or 5 kids, and the husband is a soldier who's working 12 or 14 hours a day, and the wife stays at home with the kids, and now they lose their only income. Forget about me. Like, think about all of the troops and all of that. And I do know that the Republicans were trying to pass a bill to independently pay our military. Just like, basically, it's like, okay, if we can't agree on all this other stuff, like, let's just agree to pay the military. And they were struggling to even get that done. It's just wild.
Yep. And it takes away all their programming and all their people, too. Like, all of the non-DOD people.
Exactly.
Who it takes away from them being able to access and contact because they're not working.
Yep. I didn't even think about that. That's another thing to think about. Like, the military bases have a lot of civilian people that work there. So, like, I work within the different branches have different names, but MWR does, like, events in activities. But they also do, like, the weight room, the gym facilities, the movie theaters, the bowling alleys. Events. All the events that they don't hire outside people. They just put on things like Easter egg hunts and trivia night for, like, the troops. And those people got furloughed. So now the quality of life goes down for our troops that already are working 12 hours a day. And that's not even talking about all the other stuff that they have to go through.
And their kids living on base.
And their kids they live there. That's their home. It's like a little mini city. And now, like, the entertainment and activities outreach for those kids is gone. It's just wild. So, with all that being said, after a lot of fighting, it was restructured primarily from, military bases to now we're doing a lot of breweries. Fortunately for us, neither one of us drink alcohol. So, but we're going to be doing a lot of breweries throughout the next couple days, and we're going on tour, which is a good thing. The federal government shutdown is not, and if I can find my phone,
And
wanted
we
to
thought
pull
it'd
up.
be over by now.
Yeah,
I mean, all indicators said it would be, or was supposed to be, or...
Yep. And I'm glad you said that, because here's what's wild, and this is something that actually matters for us to talk about. There's a lot of speculation and a lot of talk going on right now, and obviously we all have our own biases about this thing, and each political party is blaming the other for not coming to a consensus. But here's what's interesting. A lot of people right now are saying that there is talk that the Democrat Party is deliberately trying to withhold the shutdown until after the election, meaning as soon as the election is done, they'll concede to the Republicans' proposal for funding bills, meaning give up the things that they were demanding to open the government again, but they want to wait till the election is done because they think it'll be better for them politically if the government is still shut down when people go out to the polls.
Is it true that it's because the Democrats are thinking that people who are not really looking into it are just putting all of the blame on the Republicans and Trump?
I mean, both sides are from the party perspective, not the voters, but just the parties. They're both blaming each other. So basically, the Republicans are saying, we want to open the government, and the things that you want to add into these spending bills are absurd. So we're not including that. And the Democrats say, you're the reason the government isn't open, because you're in the majority and you won't make concessions with us in order to open the government. So they're both trying to say the other one is at fault, which is really silly. Because
they're both just being stubborn in their own ways.
Which is, I mean, here's the thing, folks. A lot of people don't realize. I'm really glad you said that, Kirsten, because it's important for us to think about this. However much it sucks that the government is shut down right now, the reason why that happened, and you don't see it happen in other Western developed countries the way that we do, is because our government was not designed to be efficient. The whole premise of what it was predicated on, the reason that the way the founding fathers structured our federal government is they wanted there, in order for legislation to be passed, for both sides to understand this is a good thing. Because they were afraid if a simple majority got in, right? So like, let's just say you only needed 51 out of 100 votes to pass any form of legislation. A small majority of the population or the political party in power could basically dictate the way of life for everyone. So the way that they structured things is they wanted there to be large majorities for bills to pass, especially like constitutional amendments. I could be wrong here, but I think you need 3 out of every 4 state legislators to agree on making an amendment. And then I think it's like 2 out of 3 senators and representatives. It's really difficult to pass an amendment to the Constitution. And they did it deliberately because they didn't want simple majorities to dictate the way everyone lived. They wanted to bog down the government and slow it down. However, in this situation, when there's no funding and you need 60 votes in the Senate and it's like 53-47 or something like that right now in the Senate, it's very difficult to get people of the opposing political party to agree on a spending bill. And that's how you have this. So it's just a wild thing, because you would think that our government would be able to set aside the political part. So it's like, quote unquote, funding for illegal immigrants or not. And then all of the extra spending bills that the Democrats want to add in. The government isn't doing separate spending bills and just coming to an agreement and sitting down and saying, how can we fund our military right now? And I'm not talking about developing new missiles. I'm saying give those people that sacrifice a paycheck. You know, like, it's just a sad reality that it's not happening. And I'm glad you said that, because I'll read this article real quick. Speaker of the House Johnson claims Democrats don't want to fold, quote unquote, on ending the government shutdown until after Election Day. And this is from CNN Politics. House Speaker Mike Johnson is weighing in on the government shutdown today, suggesting there could be progress next week after the election day in the congressional stalemate that has shut down the government for over a month. Quote, we do not have a sense that something may change, or sorry, we do have a sense that something may change next week, Johnson said during a virtual appearance at a Republican Jewish Coalition's leadership summit. Johnson claimed Democrats are waiting until after Tuesday next week to make any progress, because they believe ending the shutdown could harm voter turnout, with key races taking place in New Jersey, Virginia, and New York City. Meaning, the Republicans are now starting to claim that the Democrats have been withholding conceding to the Republicans in hopes that this will drag out through Election Day, because people will be so outraged. Where's my food stamps? Where's my benefits? I want a paycheck. That they'll go out and vote Democrat. And then after the election is done, then they'll concede to the Republican demands and open the government again. So effectively what that means is Republicans are now starting to claim that the Democrats are using this shutdown as political leverage to gain political power.
But why is it that the people would think and just assume that they should vote Democrat in order to lift all of this?
I would say that it's very apparent that the Democrat Party is the one that is giving out the subsidies and the support for people. And so if you claim that you're the ones that support SNAP food benefits and things like that, and the Republicans are saying, you know, we want to restrict it or take it away, and now your funding is physically gone, right? So you go to the store and there's no money. You're going to equate that problem to the Republicans doing it.
What about all the taxpayers and the people who don't get those SNAP benefits? I mean, I think it was like 3 million people or something like that get SNAP benefits out of how many?
No, I think it's 40 million.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I think it's 40 million people get some form of it.
Wow.
I could be wrong about that. But the reality is it's like the Democrats would, if this is the case, the idea is that people who are underinformed about what's actually happening would just basically be enraged in how it's affecting them directly and go out and vote Democrat thinking this will help us get, you know, our money, our food stamps, whatever it may be. And the point that I'm getting to, and I think you'll agree with me, is regardless of how we feel politically, I think it's disgusting on either side to use a government shutdown for political power is disgusting.
Yeah.
It's that, like, you can talk about the policies and the way the money gets spent, okay, but separate from that, if you allow our military and all of the ripple effects, like we gave one example of what's affecting us and the events people on the military bases, that's one example, and then you think about the waitress who lives in a military town, and now she's not getting any tip money. If you use a government shutdown for political power over those people, you're wrong. You're the bad guy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, well, that's basically every politician then.
I mean, the reality is they're both blaming each other. Republicans are saying, we're not going to agree to the Democrat demands because they want ridiculous spending bills that are absurd. And the Democrats are saying, we're not going to agree to this.
I mean, if it's gone on for this long, why would either side who feels strongly about their position lean in and be like, okay, we'll give in now? You know, there's got to be something that makes one side or the other give in, or some sort of leverage or some sort of negotiation that makes them come to an agreement, because after over a month, they're not just going to do that.
I think the reason why is they know they know this can't go on indefinitely, because eventually the populace will rise up. Like, they're going to get enough demand from people that are saying, who gives a shit, get it open. You know, enough people will say, like, I haven't had to pay, like TSA agents, right? Let's just say, like, the airport workers haven't gotten paid in a month. They're just going to stop working. They're not going to keep showing up and not getting paid. There are, because this has happened many times in the past, there's laws that are written that the federal government workers are supposed to get back pay when the funding does kick in. But I mean, imagine, dude, you go to work every day doing a shitty job, you're exhausted, you make no money, you get treated like shit, and now you haven't gotten paid for a month, and they tell you to show up on Monday or work overtime. And
probably, I mean, I don't know the number, but imagine how many people that live paycheck to paycheck, that a whole month worth of no pay.
Yeah,
it's like,
dude.
How are you going to pay rent this month?
Yep, exactly.
And you didn't know it was coming.
Exactly.
You didn't have a backup plan. You don't have savings. Like, what are you going to do?
Exactly.
And your landlord's going to be pissed. And what if you get evicted? You know, like, what if there's no leniency, or now you have higher fees because you're paying late? So there's, even if you do get the back pay, it still sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of those things where it's like, these are things that affect people in a deep way, because I don't know what the exact percentage is, but one of our really good friends, Merch, who works insurance, said this years ago. It's something around 80% of Americans have less than $500 in their bank account at any time. So that's even people that have, like, we live in a nice area. Like, we're looking out at people with boats and nice cars and trucks. The majority of Americans keep less than $500 to their name in their bank account, which means they're not just
liquid cash, though.
Yeah.
Or like very liquid
it's not
money.
It's not their asset, so it's not like their car. But it's saying, like, in an event of an emergency, right? You lose your job, federal government shutdown. The vast majority, I think it's around 80% of Americans. It might be like 78 or something, but it's like 4 out of 5 Americans could not survive an emergency, a financial one. you lose one paycheck, you're fucked. And then the government shutdown is going on a month now. So it's scary shit. And it's like a wild thing. And if it is true, which who knows, and I don't know if the public ever will, maybe we will. Maybe we'll find out in a week on November 5th or November 6th. If the Democrats just concede and vote as soon as the election is done, we'll know, probably. That's a wild thought. I hope it's not true. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy shit. And I'm disappointed in almost all politicians, but to hear something like that the Democrats could be doing this politically is unreal.
So what exactly is this election coming up?
There's different ones. Like I said, so on election day, like for where I am registered to vote, all I voted in was a state government vote. That's it. They had local votes, but I didn't even know the candidates, so I didn't vote at all. So different places have different elections coming up, and different states have different things coming up. So and here's the big one. This is the big one, and we're going to talk about later is the New York City mayor election, which is wild, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's a good example because there are a ton of people in New York City that have federal government programs. So like the idea would be, if we want our New York City candidate to win, who's offering all these free programs, and right now those free programs are being threatened, you portray the image as it's the Republicans and the conservatives that are taking it away, and here comes a guy that's going to promise all this free shit, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. So that's a good example of what it is. I don't know exactly all the different races, but it's like different places have different races going on within the states. It's not like a big federal election day in the sense of like you're voting for the president, but there's different races going on November 4th throughout the country. And the big one that we're going to talk about in a little bit is New York City's mayor race. It's freaking wild. So that is that.
We can talk about it now.
Just because we've been segued into it?
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
We're not good at natural segues. So our most natural segue into
our next subject.
The out of order subject.
I don't know if any of you folks have seen it. There's a lot of controversy going on about the New York City mayoral candidate, Zohran Mamdani, who is a immigrant who practices the Muslim religion of Islam, which either one of those things is fine. The thing that is controversial around him is that he has said that he wants a very, 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 what many people would claim is full-blown socialist agenda, meaning not Democrat liberal style agenda for the city, but full-blown socialism, which more or less is a nice term for communism. He has a platform. So this is from his website for the platform that he wants. One of the things he wants to freeze the rent. He wants there to be fast, fair, and free buses, but the big word here is free, meaning there are no charges to use the buses in New York City. Here's a big one. He wants to expand government and create the Department of Community Safety. And I could go into this. You can look at this on his website. But effectively what he's saying is that crime is really bad in New York City, but the problem is not the criminals. It's where the root of it begins. Why are they committing the crime? So what we're going to do is we're going to install mental health workers in the subways where so many people are being violently attacked to try to stop crime before it happens with the Department of Community Safety. Okay, so there's a good one. People have been set on fire in the subways. People have been kicked into the trains to try to be killed. There's been all kinds of attacks on those things. So what we'll do is we'll put mental health workers down there to stop the crime before it even happens. No cost childcare. Free childcare. There's another one. So free buses, free childcare. And here's a good one. You ready for this one? City-owned grocery stores. No private businesses. What could go wrong with having the government run a private sector industry? I will read this one. Food prices are out of control. Nearly 9 in 10 New Yorkers say the cost of groceries is rising faster than their income. Only the very wealthiest aren't feeling squeezed at the register. As mayor, Zohran will create a network of city-owned grocery stores focused on keeping prices low, not making a profit. Without having to pay rent or property taxes, they will reduce overhead and pass the savings on to shoppers. They will buy and sell at wholesale prices, centralize warehousing and distribution, and partner with local neighborhoods on products and sourcing. New York City is already spending millions of dollars to subsidize private grocery store operators, which are not even required to take SNAP or WIC. We should redirect the public money for a real public option. And I don't know about the 100 million people who died under communism, But what in the world could ever go wrong with the government running a private sector entity such as food? I mean, could we possibly have an example to look to, such as Venezuela, which had a shit ton of money from their oil resources, and now there are pictures of people going to grocery stores where the only thing they could buy is ketchup? I don't know many things, but typically most people don't do good off of living off of just ketchup. I don't know if any of you have seen the videos of Cuban-American immigrants desperately pleading, going into grocery stores saying, when I was in Cuba under a communist country, I couldn't get these foods. They didn't exist. But if we just try it here in America, what could go wrong? Who knows? Housing by and for New York. We need a lot more affordable housing. I think he said he wants to triple. Let's see here. New York City has had mayor, Zohran will put our public dollars to work and triple the city's production of permanently affordable union-built, rent-stabilized homes, constructing 200,000 new units over the next 10 years. Cracking down on bad landlords, and taxes on big corporations and the wealthiest New Yorkers. Zohran has a plan to bring down the cost of living through city-owned grocery stores, universal childcare, and other bold proposals. And he knows exactly how to pay for it, too. Zohran's revenue plan will raise the corporate tax rate to match New Jersey's 11.5%, bringing in nearly $5 billion. Bringing in $5 billion, not even nearly. And he will tax the wealthiest 1% of New Yorkers, those earning above $1 million annually, a flat 2% tax. Zohran will also implement common sense procurement reform and end senseless no-bid contracts, hire more tax auditors, and crack down on fine collection corrupt landlords to raise an additional $1 billion. What could go wrong with making an incentive to cause rich people to want to leave your city, to go to places like Florida? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know if any of this has ever been tried before, but here's a great idea, ladies and gentlemen. How about we just have the government take over everything? We'll penalize the rich, take all their money, have the government give everything away for free, and then what could go wrong? Who knows? I don't know. I don't know if millions upon millions of people starved to death in China. I don't know if in the Soviet Union, countless people were thrown into gulags and turned into prison camps. I don't know if socialism has been responsible for 100 million deaths since it started being incepted in countries around the world. What could go wrong? So, because socialism has such a wonderful track record around the world, ladies and gentlemen, why don't we implement it in America's most prolific, important, and financially strong city? What could go wrong? Who knows? Let's try it out.
Whoa. I want to hear more about the universal child care.
Okay.
Because also, I mean, public school basically is free childcare for the daytime once they get to that age. And New York's public school system is pretty good, right?
It depends on where you are. Yeah, I've never been there, but I've heard horror stories about a lot of New York City schools. Rural New York State schools are usually really, really good comparatively. I can't speak about. I've heard horror stories about New York City, but I imagine that's case by case. I don't know.
I can't imagine that the quality of the child care that you could get for free by the government would be very good.
Okay, so here we go. No cost childcare. After rent, the biggest cost for New York's working families is childcare. It's literally driving them out of the city. New Yorkers with children under 6 are leaving at double the rate of all the others. Ooh, maybe, just maybe, it's because of New York City's bullshit. Maybe that's why they're leaving. But don't let me digress. The burden falls heaviest on mothers who are giving up paying jobs to do unpaid childcare. Zohran will implement free childcare for every New Yorker aged 6 weeks to 5 years, ensuring high-quality programming for all families. And he will bring up wages for childcare workers, a quarter of whom currently live in poverty, to be at parity with public school teachers. It will foster early childhood development, save parents money, and keep our families in the city they call home. So we'll just snap our fingers, and now every kid will get free childcare. What could go wrong? That should be easy to implement.
Especially in a city where all of the rich people are going to want to leave.
It's unreal.
And all of the poor people are going to want to move to because they're going to get free stuff.
It's unreal. It's as close to full-blown socialism as it gets. and it's in it's in America's most important city, in my opinion.
Is that in this vote coming up?
Yes. And so that loops into what we were talking about the federal government using this as leverage. So, and again, I'm not saying that's what the Democrats' sole intent is. That's not my point, but it's what the Republicans are speculating, that the Democrats want to keep the government shut down. So people in New York City who are hearing your SNAP benefits are going to go away, the Republicans don't want to extend it, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you should vote for Zohran, who wants government-owned grocery stores and free childcare.
What does this do to the people that are middle class? You know, like it's obvious the effects that it has on the low income class and the rich people. What are the effects for the middle class who don't get any SNAP benefits? They pay their fair share in taxes, but how would like a government-owned food system affect them?
Well, I don't think, and I could be wrong, I don't think we've ever had government-owned grocery stores before. The reason why, I mean, I honestly don't know. It's hard to say because it's never been implemented. But I mean, like, if you're a middle-class person and they implement these things, and you can see the government grocery store has rice, you know, way cheaper than a privately owned grocery store, maybe it incentivizes you to go in there. But what happens when everyone floods to try to get this shit and then the grocery store doesn't have anything? What if they outcompete the private sector grocery stores, so the private sector grocery stores leave and then the government grocery stores collapse because they can't keep up with supply or demand or whatever? There's so many questions that go into it.
Or there's not enough money in it for
Exactly.
them to be able to keep up with it.
Exactly. There's a lot of things that go into it, and I don't know who it was. I saw a quote on the internet today. It could just be made up. I don't know, but it is a good one. It's like, if the government can give you food, the government can take it away. So if you have only government grocery store options, and then the government, who everyone knows is inefficient, go into a DMV, ladies and gentlemen. Imagine the DMV running your grocery store. Like, you've been to grocery stores where once in a while you're like, oh man, they don't have eggs today. What if you went into a grocery store and every day for 3 months they don't have eggs? And because you don't have a car, because you live in New York City, you can't just drive to another grocery store. That's the scare.
And it doesn't matter about their reputation. And
they have no care.
Because why would they need to treat people good when you have no choice but to come here?
I'm a government worker. I just show up.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get fired.
It's not like you have the choice between us and Trader Joe's.
Right.
It's like you have one choice and you have to come in here if you want food, which is everybody.
Yes.
Especially in New York City. Like, there's no way you're getting enough space to grow your own food in New York City.
Yeah. And not only that, it's like most of the people in New York City don't have their own car. So they go to like the place right next to them.
At least
and
you
if
could get it on a free bus.
Hop on a free bus and spend 3 hours commuting to get your groceries from Whole Foods when you are a low-income family. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't... Okay, here's the thing. A lot of these policies of socialism, and I think this is a really good point, I'm glad we're talking about it. The draw of socialism is meant for people who have felt disenfranchised. They can't get ahead. No matter what they do, they're poor. And now someone comes and promises you, we're going to either reduce or take away your rent. We're going to give you free shit, free food, free childcare, free college. It's very appealing. I understand the appeal. I get it. The Republicans have a horrible, horrible, horrible track record with explaining why those things don't work. Because if you're underinformed or uninformed completely and you're disenfranchised, you're going to be drawn to those programs because it sounds great.
But are those programs meant to be forever programs when they get put into place? I mean, clearly not, with looking at how easy it is for them to say, oh, nope, your food stamps are gone. No one's getting them. So, you know, like, is it something that people get and they're like, cool, this is forever, you know?
You mean
probably not. I mean, that's not how it's supposed to be.
No, I mean, the idea of how this is okay. I'm really glad you said that because that's a good representation of the problem with government in of itself. I don't think that government programs are started with nefarious intent most of the time, right? I understand very well the necessity for people to have emergency, funding support for either housing or food or whatever. I understand emergency support programs. I do. I think they're very good. I think that oversight into how they're implemented so it can't be frauded and misused and mistreated is great. I think the way that most of those programs start is with the intent of people need an emergency outlet. Let's do this. But it's notorious for all forms of government. When government grows, it very rarely contracts. It just keeps growing because think about it. If you have people who have spent 30 years on government assistance in multiple forms, and now a Republican comes in and says, this isn't fair to the working class, this isn't right, I'm taking it away. Who are you going to be mad at? Are you ever going to vote for that person? And I think the problem is it's very difficult to take away government programs that have been embedded for so long, because people now assume
don't know how to live without them.
Right. They've only ever known that. They feel entitled to it. They don't even understand where it's really coming from. People just say, well, the government gives me money for food. Where does that money come from?
And why do people feel entitled to it once they get it?
They haven't been informed. They don't know. They just view it through the lens of, I see Elon Musk and Taylor Swift with a jet and all this shit, and I just want to survive. If the government can afford...
They don't realize that everybody who's a middle-class person that's working their ass off to afford the same lifestyle, like people who live in Section 8, they live in the same neighborhoods that we could live in, you know? Like, sometimes you don't even know that it's a Section 8 neighborhood because they're just scattered throughout the neighborhood randomly. And so they're living the same lifestyle, and they don't have to work. And then they'll just live off of it for however long they can get it and not even think they need to do anything for it because they deserve it, you know? And if they get any of that taken away, it's like a huge deal.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it'd be like getting a pay decrease, like at work. You know, why is this happening? I've been working here, except for they're not doing the work.
Right. It makes sense how people come to the conclusions that they've come to when you think about their life experience and then you add in a lack of information.
And then they keep having kids.
Yeah. And then they get more and more benefits because they're more and more dependent. So they're going to stay on those benefits, and they're going to raise their kid in that environment with that mindset. And those people are never equating and thinking about, where does the government's money come from? It comes from taxes that other working people are paying in.
And they put so much time and effort into getting all these government programs and getting money from all these places instead of spending time into working. And then they get mad when they're like, oh, they're making me do volunteer hours. Like with this whole SNAP thing, I'm seeing videos all over the internet of people that are pissed off because now they're saying they have to do 15 hours of community service if they're not going to be working, you know? And it's like, they give you $4,000 a month for food for your 6 kids. And you're complaining about having to work a little bit.
There's a weird, the way that, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. I think that government assistance programs, which I think have an incredible amount of merit. Like, I've seen it. Like, when I first finished grad school, there was a guy who, I don't remember where he came from. I'm pretty sure he was an immigrant. And he worked his whole life to support his family. He had a wife and kids. And I was down because I was working with people with disabilities. So I was in the social service center, like where people go to get government benefits. And the dude was walking around panicking. He was like, I don't know if he lost his business or his job, because this was like 12 years ago. But he basically was panicking because he lost his income. And he's like, I need to figure out how I'm going to pay rent. I don't know what to do. Who's going to help me? And the government has all these forms and all this bullshit, and they're never available, and it takes forever, just like when you go to the DMV. And he had no way how he had no clue how he was going to figure out how to support his family. I think guys like that should be able to walk into the government center and be able to sit down with someone and say, look, here's what I've been doing. This is what happened. Help me, please. And he can be able to get some sort of assistance quickly. I think people that need to walk in and be able to get food stamps in order to feed their kids legitimately, absolutely, they should be able to do it. But I also see the opposite end of that spectrum, where I worked with people with disabilities, and I watched the guy who I worked with have his government worker use her work time because it was in his plan, because he was severely disabled. So the government had social workers take care of all his shit, right? He had an apartment that I couldn't afford. I had a master's degree. I just finished school, and I was his personal care aide, and I couldn't afford the rent in the apartment that he lived in by himself. I had to have a roommate. Which, whatever, I'm not saying pity me, but it's just perspective. He had an apartment at a cost of living that I couldn't sustain as his aide, and he got a siphon for spending cash. And he also had a siphon in his plan for cigarettes. And here's the reason it matters. The government is the ones paying his health insurance. Why are we subsidizing him inhaling toxins into his body when we're going to have to pay to take care of him later? And this is going to sound exaggerated. I promise you, ladies and gentlemen, this is not hyperbolic. This actually happened. At one point, I set up a meeting with his social worker to meet him in the park, where she drove on her time out to the Indian reservation, bought him a bundle of cigarettes, and brought him and met him in the park and handed him a bundle of cigarettes and an envelope of cash. That is unbelievable. I am
saw
not
that
saying
firsthand.
I watched it. I literally drove him there to that meeting to get that. And I'm not in any way saying that I think government programs should go away. I think that Republicans are narrow-sighted if they think they can just snap their fingers and expect a woman who's lived off of government benefits for 30 years to just go out and get a job and feed her kids tomorrow when she doesn't even know what she's doing. I think it's silly to say it's done, go out and do it. Like pull, the table out and just immediately expect them. But I also know the opposite is true. There is an unbelievable amount of waste, fraud, and abuse in those programs, and they shouldn't exist. They shouldn't. We should not have someone who's so disabled they can't write their name, get an apartment nicer than their aides, and be given loose cash when they don't even know what's going on in the world, and cigarettes. That shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. And it's disgusting that it does. So this is my opinion. I think government programs should be quick and easy to get for people in need and harder to maintain for those who are just abusing it.
Or just, at least anything to maintain. I don't think there's much put in place for people to have to maintain them.
Well, that's the thing that's really weird is that it's really difficult to get into those government programs because it's confusing, it's convoluted, you don't know what's going on. But when you're in, a lot of those people just get it and they don't even have to think about it. But that immigrant that I saw in the social building, it was that same job that I worked when I saw that dude. He had no clue and no one could help him. That guy should be able to walk in there and be able to have someone clearly and quickly help him.
But what do you think that the people who are all on those benefits that know the ins and outs of every single form and every loophole that you need to go through just to get them, what do you think they're teaching their kids? All 8 of their kids that are living off of these benefits. What do you think they're teaching them? Do you think they're teaching them how to go and get a higher education and how to, do the right thing and how to be generous and courteous and get a job and fend for yourself and be independent? Or do you think they're teaching them, here's the form you need to do, here's exactly who you need to go to, here's what you need to call, and this is how you get your benefits, and then you can just live scot-free like that?
So this is one thing that I can't say that I saw directly. I was one step away from it. So my job when I worked in college, I was a lifeguard for New York State Parks. And you could get a thing called, I think it was called the Access Pass, where basically like New York residents would sign up for this thing, and it's basically like a VIP membership card to the state parks. So you pay a certain amount of money, and then you have like way cheaper rates to go camping. So like if you camp all the time, it makes sense. And one of the benefits that the people on the government programs got was they got an Access Pass, I think, for the whole summer for like $60 or something crazy cheap. I don't know if this is true because I didn't see it, but the people that I worked with at the time would tell me that what a lot of the people would do, people that live in government housing, right? So they have their government housing paid for. They would use their Access Pass and go camping for the whole summer, basically. They'd live at a campsite, and then they would illegally sublet their apartment that's paid for to some random person that didn't want to be on the books, and then they'd pocket the cash.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that's a chronic problem. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but there absolutely is an unbelievable amount of waste. How many videos have you seen where people are going to the store and just buying nothing but processed sugar? And then what happens? It's like there's health. It's not just that it's unhealthy, and like it's like also like this causes medical issues down the line where people are obese. I saw one thing, and I don't know if it's completely true, but basically the average weight of someone on government subsidies is higher than someone who is not, and like by a lot. It was like the average female was like 140 pounds that like works on her own or something, and someone on government subsidies was like 211 on average. So like a significant amount heavier, and then you have all of the health concerns that come from that. It's just there's so much shit that goes into it, and when you have somebody like this Zofran guy who is promising the moon to people who are on those programs that want it to be extended at the same time the government shutdown comes in, and you're blaming the Republicans for it, and this guy says, I'm going to give you free everything, and your life already sucks, who are you going to vote for? Of course you're going to vote for that guy. And the biggest mistake that I think Republicans make is they do a horrible job with messaging. They don't do anything to appeal to the people who are underinformed that are drawn to that. They're drawn to it for a reason. I understand why they're drawn to it. If you don't know that much or your life is shit and someone is promising to make it easier, of course you're going to vote for them over the guy who is like an old white guy, businessman who's been rich his whole life and is disconnected from poverty and struggle. And he says, no, you should go fend for yourself. It's better. Fuck you. The Republicans need to completely rebrand their messaging and explain historical facts. Here's the reason why these government programs don't work. When we say you shouldn't have them, it's not because we're cruel. It's because we've seen all of the historical evidence to why it isn't good for anyone.
And the people who are at the top are a very, very small percentage of the people in general.
Yeah.
So they don't have big pull on anything.
Yeah, exactly. And those people, you know, it's very difficult to have the message against when you're campaigning, right? Think about it. Just imagine you don't really know anything about politics. You don't really follow it and your life is pretty tough. And you see on the news and you don't even know that much. You just watch ads. And one guy says, we're sick and tired of all these moochers living off the government and we need to take away all those programs. And another guy says, I'm going to reduce your rent. I'm going to give you free or reduced groceries and I'm going to pay for your college. Who do you think you're going to vote for? And
you're going to say, fuck the rich guys.
Yeah, exactly.
They've had enough money.
Exactly. And that's the mistake the Republicans are making. They need to change their messaging. Their messaging sucks. The Democrats appeal to people that are disenfranchised because they promise them the fucking moon. And the Republicans say, go.
And how often do they come through with all those promises?
I mean, the reason that the people are so upset is because they don't want to have the promises of all the subsidies that they have right now being taken away. You know what I mean? So it's like it puts you in a position of permanent power with that voting base because you're giving them the subsidies and you're going to tell them, I'm going to protect your subsidies. Just vote for me. The Democrat platform has always been one of, if you surrender your power and individuality, I will give you free shit. That's pretty much always been their platform. And it's very difficult to get someone to be drawn away from that into go fend for yourself. The Republican Party messaging sucks. They don't do a good job of explaining themselves as to why it's better to reduce the dependency on that stuff. You know, they just don't. And now you end up with this guy, Zohran Mamdani, who comes in and, I mean, there's a lot of speculation, I didn't even get into it, about the different things that he's said and done in his past and the possibility of how he's broken his vows when he took to be a citizen by, you know, promoting this shit. But that's an aside. Just looking at his platform from his website that you guys can look up yourselves, the dude is promising basically full-blown socialist programs. And the fact that that's rising and appealing to people, he's leading. He's probably going to win. Because who's he running against? Andrew Cuomo, the former governor of New York, who was shamed for his 2 scandals of putting putting COVID patients in nursing homes with old people to hide the numbers and to make New York not look dependent on Trump, A, and B, him like fondling women in his office. So he left being governor. That's who's running against him, and a Republican who would never win in a New York City election, ever. So who's going to win? Zohran Mamdani is probably going to be the next mayor of the most influential city in America. And he's promising full-blown socialism, and that should terrify people.
And this is in this election.
Yes. And to loop everything together, there is speculation that the Democrats want the government shut down right now until after he probably wins the election because it'll drive more people to vote for that guy. That's the belief. Not just Mamdani, because there's a million other elections, but that's the belief. And he's about to probably be the next mayor of New York City. And watch what happens, folks. Watch what happens when you incentivize the wealthiest people in your city that run businesses to leave. Watch. Your tax base goes down because they're not there. All the people that they employed are going to lose their jobs. Who's going to fill the rent and now have property taxes for you to subsidize your government? If you think that eating the rich is a good solution, you are wrong. Because all you do is you incentivize them to go places like Florida, and look how good Florida's doing, versus what's going to happen to New York City. When he does everything in his power to try to attack the rich as the bad guy and de-incentivize businesses from staying there. What happens when you raise the corporate tax rate, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think they're just going to take it on the chin and lose their margin and watch their stock value go down? Or do you think they're going to move to a state like Florida with low taxes and just relocate and say, fuck that, we're out? And then what happens when those companies leave? And then all of the people that work there don't have a job. So then they become more and more dependent on government programs, and you promise them more shit. What happens? Your city gets very quickly hollowed out and turned into a goddamn communist hellhole.
And where's the money going to come from if all of those people who they're taking the extra taxes from leave?
Exactly.
How are all those programs going to be funded?
Exactly.
Where's that $5 billion going to come from?
Exactly.
Because the people at the top do not want to pay for all those government subsidies that they're not getting advantage of.
Exactly. And that's the other side of the coin. Like you just said, like imagine you're a wealthy person and you fought like hell your whole life. You did it on your own. You never got help from anyone. And now the government comes and says, I am owed 40% of everything you made. Give it to me so I can go give this money to people who haven't worked in 30 years. How are you going to feel about that?
Yeah, wasn't that the original reason for like charities and nonprofits and things like that, so that the people who are rich can say, hey, I want to lower my taxes, so I'm going to donate to charity. And I'm going to give to charity. And that will help my taxes go down. But at least the charity that I get to select can do with what they want with my money. But I'm selecting them because I think they are a good charity for good causes and they're doing the right things with their money.
Yeah.
That's how rich people should be able to give back and spend that extra money instead of into taxes for government programs that they don't get to dictate and they don't get to decide.
And they don't get any benefit from it. I think we've talked about it before, a while ago, but basically the idea, I understand the difference in where people's upbringing can make them perceive government programs and taxes. If you grew up poor and you struggled and the government provided you housing and gave you a free education so you could get a degree and you get out and now you're in a much better place, of course you're going to think government programs are good. Of course. And I don't blame those people whatsoever. But vice versa. If you grew up in a family where your dad drained he quit his job, took his 401k out, put everything into a business, ate ramen for 2.5 months, went without food, and then slowly built up a business and now he is wealthy. And your family has done well, and the government comes and has never given you a dime and says, give me 40% of that. How are you going to feel about government taxes and government programs? You're going to think it's bullshit and it's unfair, because to you it is. So those two perspectives, I understand both.
Or when you do the right thing that you're supposed to do, you go to school, you get a degree, you work your way up in a company, and then they come back and say, okay, now give me that.
Yeah.
You don't deserve that. Those people who aren't working deserve that.
Yeah. It's going to frustrate you.
And those people who aren't working say, yeah, we deserve that. We're poor.
Yeah, we need to survive.
Why would you let us be poor when you're making all that money?
Exactly.
And it's like, I worked my ass off to get here.
Yep.
And of course there are people at the top, like with anything. There are outliers with anything. There are people at the top that didn't have to work too hard to get there, or they don't have to do much and they were just given a bunch of money. Sure. But that still doesn't mean that those people who got that money owe it to the people who don't have it.
Yeah. And that's how you end up with people that have very different perspectives on the same issue. So, in essence, and I'm sure you agree, tell me what you think. I understand how people can come to those very different conclusions based on their experiences. I understand that. What I don't understand is this bullshit, where people can't take a step back and look at Zohran Mamdani for what he actually is.
Well, maybe they are, and there's just not any options.
I mean, there's three. It's basically let's say that you're a very liberal poor person. You have three choices. You have a disgraced governor, Andrew Cuomo, right? So he doesn't have like the street cred. You have a Republican who wears a red, like military style beret. And like he has like civilian patrols go around in red jackets to try to keep people safe. And he's Republican. No way. So even if you're just like not thrilled about Zohran Mamdani, you might say, well, let's give it a shot. He's promising us the moon. Why not try it?
Exactly. Which gives more to my point of there aren't choices.
It's very difficult to run politically. It's very, very difficult for Joe Blow to just start a political party or a political movement.
Oh, of course.
It's really hard.
But how are the options? How do the options come down to this? Complete socialism or, like you said, a disgraced governor?
I don't know.
Why are those the two options for the Democrats?
Why did, and that's a whole nother thing, but a lot of people don't want to think about the fact that, so like within your party is supposed to select the candidate that runs in the general election. Why is it in the last political cycle, Kamala Harris was basically just installed as the political candidate for the Democrats, and they didn't do a primary? Why didn't the Democrats get to vote on who they wanted? They just installed Kamala. They said, oh, she's our candidate. Sorry, we didn't have enough time. Joe Biden just decided to pull out and not run for re-election, so we're going to go with Kamala. Here we go. And why weren't the Democrats infuriated with that? Why weren't they in the streets screaming about how democracy is at risk like they say about Trump, who just exists? They say Trump is a dictator,
because
a king.
that might make Kamala look bad.
Well, of course.
And that might make them look like they're going against the Democratic Party.
Yep. So let's fall into line and just ignore the fact that our own party is acting more like a dictatorship than the man we claim is a dictator, which is just wild. It comes down to this, folks. There's no simple solution, I don't think. I don't think there is a simple solution to virtually any issue on earth. The Republicans say, I've seen a lot of it. They say SNAP is filled with waste, fraud, and abuse, and the whole program. Okay. Even if you think that there are millions of people out there who have the ability to work and they should be working and not relying on the government subsidies, fine. Let's just say you're right. Even if you do that and you pull the plug tomorrow, those kids are going to go hungry. Whether or not it makes sense how they got there, we're here now, right? So it's unethical to just say tomorrow you have to go, you have 6 kids and no childcare. Go for the first time. Where is that person going to be employed? They have no skills. They don't have an education. They're going to work at Walmart or something overnight, making $18 an hour. How can they possibly afford to pay for those kids?
To be fair, though, having been receiving those benefits for the time that they have been, they should know and should have been trying to figure out something better for their life all along. They should have some sort of plan.
I don't think they want to.
But that's the whole point.
So
they're just living off of it, and then, it gets taken away from them, which, they didn't deserve it to begin with. Yeah, sure. People need it, and it should be there for people who need it, sure. But they didn't ever deserve it. None of these people are ever doing something to deserve getting paid for, to live for free, and to eat for free.
Oh, no, I don't disagree with you. My only point is this.
So they should have had a plan all along on, I'm not going to be able to live off of this forever. What is my backup? What do I do? How can I actually make some money? How can I do something? How can I be prepared for the time when it does happen?
I don't disagree with you at all. The only question that I'm saying is, regardless of what they should have been doing, just thinking about it practically.
Right.
A single mom with 6 kids. Let's say that she realizes her food stamps is out tomorrow. The best she's going to do is go out and get a job as a clerk at Walmart making $18 an hour. There's no possible way that she can feed those kids. What do you do?
Just think about the irresponsibility in a single mom with 6 kids.
Of course. I'm not.
You continue to keep having more kids, and I'm not shaming on those kids. I'm not shaming on those moms. I'm just saying that you're not thinking ahead. When you bring a child into this world, you have to be able to know that you're going to be able to take care of them and not count on someone else to do it. And that's just pure irresponsibility for those people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you.
Which shouldn't be rewarded.
I don't disagree with you. I'm only talking about, okay, think about it like this. Let's say you're the president and you decide, all right, all those government programs end tomorrow. Okay, they're done. That person who was irresponsible or made bad choices, didn't have planning, whatever, she is a single mom. She is, whether or not she was planning or not, here we are today. Single mom with 6 kids, no support. How is she going to be able to financially pay for all those kids on her own? So the only point that I'm making is...
They should just, if I was president, say relook at all of these cases. Relook at every single case of who we're giving money to today. And requalify them.
Yeah,
see where you're at. What position are you in today? What have you done in the past 10 years that we've been giving you these benefits that you feel you still deserve them? Prove your point. Prove your case. What makes us want to still give you this? And if you can prove your case, great. If you're in a really shitty spot still, here, we'll give it back to you. But for the people who are just like, I've been sitting at home doing nothing because the government's paying for me to live, maybe we should come up with a different plan for those people.
I don't disagree with you at all. It's just about implementation. It's a similar question to the idea of how Republicans want to eliminate abortions completely. It's basically this. Without getting into it, it's just like, if they do 800,000 abortions at Planned Parenthood a year and you outlaw all abortions tomorrow because you don't agree with it, you think it's wrong, where are 800,000 babies going to go? Who's going to take care of them?
Well, that's why all of these things that are such a high controversial topics like this should be looked at all on a case-by-case basis. Nothing should be 100% here or there. Everything should be a case-by-case basis. Just like how it's hard to get into these government programs to begin with, like we were saying, it's on a case-by-case basis. They're not looking at the collective and saying, oh, we're giving out this many and the first, million people to apply get it. It's not like that. They're looking at you on a case-by-case basis and saying you deserve this much money here, now, today, given your situation, and how often are they reevaluating those situations.
And also, how can we communicate to the people that have been in that system for so long to realize, like, okay, so you've been given enough money to survive, right? You have a decent enough house, you have a decent enough amount of food, whatever. You make it, you get enough government subsidies to get by, but are you thriving? Do you want to stay in this level of poverty?
Are a majority of middle class people thriving right now?
No.
So why should those people who are working and not thriving be treated any differently?
You mean from their perspective?
I mean, yeah, like, why shouldn't middle-class people be getting some benefits from the government as well?
Because the thing is, it's like,
Because, middle class isn't thriving anymore. It's not even comfortable.
Nope.
I mean, why are most people our age waiting until our age to have kids? And still struggling. It's still hard,
There is something to be said about the fact that it used to be that a family could survive, not like super thrive, but like have a small house. That is something to be noted, that houses back then were smaller, and they also didn't have a lot of nickel and dime payments that we do of like Hulu and cell phone and all this other shit. So like their cost of living was a little bit lower in that regard. But in essence, one man could work, have a small house, raise a family, have one car, and the mom could stay at home with one income and they could get by. And that's not the case anymore.
Nope.
And that's only one issue amongst many.
And that's why there are issues of, childcare. Childcare is expensive. Well, why do both people have to work? And to be able to afford a house?
No, you're not going over there, big guy. But here's the thing.
Back is up.
The whole thing boils down to what you just said of like where these people are and how they come to a position of all these things. You end up with a person like Zohran Mamdani, who promises you the moon and says, I can fix everything. Just give me unlimited power. We'll take it all from the rich and you'll get everything you've ever dreamed of and everything will be wonderful. Trust me. I'm your guy. And you have people who have no knowledge about what happened throughout the world in different countries, different cultures. It all had the same result. Socialism is awful. It appeals to people who are struggling and in need and see inequality, and it drives them nuts, and they feel disenfranchised, and this is their only hope. So they get drawn to socialism, and the outcome is always the same. Dictatorial authority, and the people suffer. That's what happens 100% of the time when you have socialism. You can argue the difference between liberalism and conservatism. You can argue the difference between being a Republican and a Democrat. But when you go 3 steps past the Democrat into full-blown socialism, like what a lot of the lunatics in Minneapolis and Seattle and Portland want, horrible things happen. Horrible, horrible things happen.
The other thing is with all the low-income people who are on all these benefits, or no-income people who are on all these benefits, what incentive do they have to get out of that loop and to get out of that hole when your option is to get a full-time job and be making as much or less than you were getting for free from the government? Why would you go and do that?
Exactly. You got to look at incentives. And there isn't much of an incentive for those people to change because would you your house isn't going to really change that much between government housing and not if you're working at Walmart or, being a taxi cab driver or something like that. So from their perspective, they were like, I'd rather just stay home and not do shit.
Right.
Would you
rather get the money for free by not doing anything or go to a full-time job and make the same or less?
Yep. And not only that, they've had it for so long, they feel entitled to it. They think it's theirs.
Yep.
They don't realize it's government subsidies. They think it's theirs. This is mine. So you're taking that away from me. So now I have the right to go to Walmart and steal whatever I want. And I'm just not going to pay my rent.
Yeah, there were supposed to be all sorts of raids and stuff today for people who didn't get their benefits this month.
Yeah. It's all crazy shit, folks, and it's a really sad thing. We can argue the difference between liberalism and conservatism all day. I understand the appeal of both. And I understand what draws people to socialism, but my God, it is not the answer ever. It is just not. And it's just wild to me. And we didn't even get into it. Minneapolis has a Somalian immigrant. He might have been born here. His parents might be immigrants, but he's a Somali guy who is promising similar type shit to Zohran Mandami. And he was just in a press conference or a rally or something where he, was waving a Somali flag, and, it looked like he was just here to support Somalia and didn't give a shit about America. It's wild. It's wild shit that's going on. And I don't know. I'm really nervous and frustrated because it feels like on a national level, everything in our country is just unraveling and getting wilder and wilder and scarier and crazier. And again, I want to be very clear. This is in no way me saying an immigrant shouldn't be mayor and, there's wrong with having pride from where your family came from. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way that it felt, like if you watch that video clip when he was speaking in another language, it was really freaking scary. And that's just one aspect. You have people struggling to survive. You have the world on the verge of like economic collapse and war all the time. Like, things are really hard right now. It's freaking wild. And it would be nice if we could feel the same sense of like stability that we had when me and you were kids in the 90s. We're like, sure, there's issues, but for the most part, things seem relatively level in terms of a societal scale. It does not feel that way.
I wonder if people would say that's just because we were kids and we didn't know what was going on, but
it could be. But also, like, in the 90s, like, the Cold War ended, the Soviet Union collapsed. We didn't really have, like, a rising nemesis that was, like, super powerful. The economy was doing really well. I don't know. Maybe it's because we were kids, but also just, like, globally, it didn't seem like it does now. It just seems like everything is unraveling and descending and falling apart and on the verge of collapse. It's just, like, a scary, scary thing,
And it's weird because we have more information than ever,
and that's
right here.
That's true.
But there are so many misinformed or uninformed people.
Yep.
It's like everybody's consumed with, useless content.
Yeah.
And there's so much useless content and ads and all that bullshit.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of good quality content where people can go and just hear unbiased things that are just conversations like this, I guess. I mean, I guess we have our own biases and our own ways, but I think we try to be as best as possible at looking at both sides.
And at least trying, and even intermittently.
Just talking about things.
Yeah. And not becoming emotionally enraged. Removing our own opinion and trying to look at it from an outside perspective. But also, and I think this is something that's important, something about us that I think is really important that I wish more people had. I don't think I have many skills in this world, but I do think that one thing about us that's unique. A lot of people these days have a tendency where if they hear differing political opinions, they become emotionally enraged. They can't hear different ideas and just at least talk about it. I guarantee you, and I'm very proud of you for this, you could hear almost any political view and you wouldn't become upset. You'd be able to listen to it. Even if you disagreed with it adamantly, you wouldn't take it personally and become emotionally enraged. You'd be able to listen to it. You'd be able to talk about it. You'd be able to think about it. You'd at least, even if you thought it was stupid, you could toy with an idea and just at least play it out in your mind and think about it. That's something that's really significant.
I had something really funny to say, but I'm going to hold back.
What?
No, I'm going to hold back. I'll tell you
You're going to plead the fifth?
Yep.
First time, ladies and gentlemen, Kirsten said not on camera. I don't think she's ever done that.
Camera. It was going to be a good one, though.
All right. I will trust you on that. And that we'll use that as a hard segue into our final topic before my favorite subject or section of this show.
I think we should just go into your favorite segment and save the rest for the next episode. Cause
what are we at right now?
A while.
Okay. And that, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to my favorite subject, my favorite segment of this podcast, Kirsten's Hot Take.
Pew, 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 pew.
And on today's episode, Kirsten's Hot Take that was written down approximately 1 hour ago. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. On the fly, off the cuff, speaking from the soul. You know it. You love it. Get ready for Kirsten's Hot Take.
This is not meant to be personal. So if you're someone out there watching us, it's not personal. It's a general statement. Girls are not funny.
Hit me with it.
That's it.
There isn't even a follow-up.
I mean,
It's just...
I'm a female myself, so that's about all I got.
So there's no follow-up or rant. It's just statement, period, done.
Yep.
You heard it here first, folks, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was Kirsten's Hot Take.
Thank you all so much for watching our show. We love doing this. And someone please sponsor us soon. Thank you, and we love you all.